Welcome, everybody, to the Fourth Wall Wrestling Podcast. I'm Will. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how's it going?
Going great, bro. Ready to get into today's podcast and talk about everything going on in the wrestling community.
Right, that's good to hear. And we are back for the NXT review. But before we get into anything regarding NXT, make sure you go like and drop a comment on the Raw review. As well, if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you never miss when a podcast goes up. But that being said, Brandon, NXT last night, before we get into anything specific, the big thing I noticed from last night's show is that coming off of Raw, there was this mellow tone about it. Like, aside from the thing with Joe, and only Joe, I don't even care about Kross in this feud, but aside from the thing with Joe, there was really nothing else to make this show exciting. Did you feel the same way about that?
Felt the exact same way. It coming off of Raw and seeing what they did, and not just with Cross, just seeing Keith Lee returning on. He was just in NXT last summer, and this is the way he's being treated now. And then the way seeing Cross was, just lost, his debut as NXT's champion. It's just like, what's the point of being, excited for NXT? Because it's like in the end, everybody's gonna get the same treatment. It's how it's been for a few years now, so I don't expect anything to change.
Right. And, this week has really just proven that Vince McMahon does not care about NXT.
Nope.
Time after time do we see guys get called up to the main roster. They're hot for about a week, a month, a stretch of a couple weeks, however long that may be. And then, boom. Just like that, once Vince has his grasp on them and the uniqueness about them wears off, he just goes and ravages them, really. We saw it with Keith Lee. Everybody loves Keith Lee. We know how good of a performer he is. We know how good he is not only on the mic but in the ring as well. We know he can carry a storyline. We knew how good Aleister Black and Andrade were. All these guys, they get called up. Ricochet. All these guys, they get called up. Their demise is seemingly waiting for them on the main roster. And
Yeah.
I fear for some of the guys in NXT right now, like Johnny Gargano, like Adam Cole, like Tommaso Ciampa, who I don't think is going to go up for a while. But guys like them, who are not these big, glistening monsters like Kross is. If Kross is getting buried on the main roster, imagine what Vince is going to do to the smaller guys when they come up.
Yeah, man. I personally feel that Ciampa and Gargano, I personally feel like they stay in NXT forever. That's just how I feel. I feel like with NXT, it's just like you need those two. You need those two people that just get you. I think it's safe to say that, Ciampa and Gargano are like the Rock and Stone Cold of NXT.
Right.
Because they've had a great rivalry, one of the greatest rivalries. Like, I think it is the greatest rivalry in NXT. I mean,
Most
some people
definitely.
can argue Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but I think Ciampa and Gargano is definitely the best rivalry ever to hit the NXT brand. So yeah, I think you just need them to just keep the eyes on NXT. Because if they left, it'd be like, whoa, like you just need those type of leading figures in that locker room. So I think they stay in NXT forever. Yeah.
Right, I feel the same way. I know that Vince is going to push for Gargano and Ciampa, but I think Triple H has to draw a line and say, no, you're not taking these guys. And it'd be in his best interest to do the same with Cole, but I don't know. It's every time somebody gets called up who's hot in NXT, the fire quickly turns to nothing. So
Mhm.
It's quite a sad situation going on, and I definitely think that when we look at tonight's episode, the tone and the overall feeling of this episode was just down because of what happened on Monday night. And speaking of what happened on Monday night, we're going to open today's show. Our big story is regarding Karrion Kross and what happened on his Monday Night Raw debut. So, I've been hearing conflicting reports. One of them being that, everybody backstage was mad, which I can believe. I'd be pissed if my top guy got called up to the main roster to lose to a guy that's been irrelevant for the past year in a 2-minute match where the babyface cheated. And then you get the guy on the mic and have him look like an idiot because after he lost, he's talking about how good he is. I'd be pissed too if I was anybody down in NXT. So that's the report I gravitate towards when I look at this situation. Because it really is a slap in the face. Anybody who's telling you it's not a slap in the face to anybody down in NXT is an idiot. There is no reason why your NXT champion should be getting called up with the title to lose to a babyface who's been irrelevant for the past year. Like, imagine, I said this on the Raw review yesterday. Imagine if they did that to Kevin Owens. Imagine if they brought up Kevin Owens, and then instead of that grid feud with John Cena, we had him face an irrelevant shell of his former self, Legend, in, someone like Jeff Hardy, and lose in 2 minutes to a cheating babyface. It 100% is absolutely a slap in the face to Triple H and anybody down in NXT. And it's this same old broken, worn out record every time. Triple H builds a star. He puts guys in the ring with that star to try to get him over, to work on his character. And then it all gets ruined when he gets called up to the main roster.
Yeah.
It's sickening. But, Brandon, when you look at that report, how do you feel about it? What are your initial thoughts? And what do you think the overall backstage tone in NXT is like going forward?
This we make right here. I feel like this report, what happened this week and what happened on Raw, this just makes indie stars, it just makes them want to sign with AEW more now, because NXT used to be, like the top wrestling in the world. Like, you made NXT, you were guaranteed to see fire matches, and and now it's like when you go to NXT, it's like you're almost scared to become a big star there, because if you do, Vince would have eyes on you and want you to be demoted to the main roster, and if you did, you get the same treatment as Kross. So I feel like this whole thing would just I don't know, it definitely just messes with the upcoming stars in NXT's head, like people in the breakout tournament, after seeing the backlash, it's just like, well, dang, like, like, could I be
That could
next
be
to this?
me.
Could this be that could be me? Is this my fate in the future? You know what I mean? So,
Definitely.
it's really not nuts to say, because I'm pretty sure. I mean, you hit it right on the head.
So you have that report, which is generally what I gravitate towards because that's how I feel. I feel exactly like Triple H feels, and I know I don't have the heart and soul into investment into Karrion Kross like Triple H does because I'm not the one creating that and helping craft it, but I definitely know where he's coming from. And then you have another report coming from the Dirty Sheets Patreon suggesting that the real reason why Karrion Kross lost his Raw debut is because of backstage heat he has. So, if you remember a few weeks back, it was leading up to Takeover in Your House. They had a promo segment, the one where Adam Cole completely buried Karrion Kross on the mic. Let's be real. He made him look like a 6-year-old child on the mic. And he said some truth. He said that without Karrion Kross's, without Scarlett, without the smoke and mirrors, he's nothing. He's not special. And Raw proved that this past week. But the big part of this, in my eyes, is at the end when Adam Cole hopped on the announce table. It looked like he threw a water bottle into the ring and hit Scarlett, which if I was Karrion Kross, I'd be pissed too. So it looked like Kross is pissed off about it. So apparently, from what I gather from this report, with all the things Cole said about Kross, to Kross calling Cole a little man, all this stuff, it does seem like WWE officials, A, didn't like how Kross handled the situation, and B, they decided to punish him for it by ruining his career. So what are your thoughts on this report? And, what do you gather from the backstage heat Kross is receiving?
This one doesn't seem as, realistic as the last report, because I feel like Triple H, if he was that mad at Kross, he wouldn't go out of his way to make his show look bad. That doesn't make sense to me. But, at the end of the day, I mean, it could be like a punishment thing, to have him embarrassed on TV. But, I mean, if that is true, I don't think that's very smart on the officials' behalf backstage in NXT or in WWE, because it makes NXT look bad. I'm really anxious to see what the ratings from NXT were last night. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a big drop at all. So yeah, if that's true, I think it was very dumb to punish him that way. They could have punished him in a entire differently way. You could have. I mean, I don't know what you could have done, but what they did Monday, man, I don't. It's gonna go down as one of the worst debuts in WWE history.
Definitely, and when I look at what happened, I don't really necessarily believe this report, because there's other ways to punish a guy, like you said.
Yeah.
Why would you basically bury him over a little heat he has backstage? It doesn't make sense to me. There's completely different ways of going about this situation, and instead you decide to punish him for it. And another unfair part of this is that when NXT uses their promo system, they use bullet points.
Exactly.
So this wasn't planned.
AEW the same.
This wasn't planned. This wasn't written out. So when Cole says all these things, of course Kross is going to be mad if he, basically tells him the truth, but Kross doesn't want to hear that truth. So it's in my eyes, it's a bit unfair to punish a guy for being mad about things said about him on air in front of thousands of people. And probably, I know they don't count this towards ratings, but people watching on the app, people watching on illegal streaming services, people watching on the USA Network, people, going back on YouTube and watching highlights, that's over a couple million people watching. Of course he's going to be mad about that. And I think if you're going to punish him by trying to ruin his career in WWE, it's a bit petty, and I think it's unfair.
For sure.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Kross is probably, his career is probably on the way out.
Now, there's a chance that very well they could still use him in a big way in the future.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, his debut was ruined, and you can't erase history with that. That's all I'm saying. That's where they messed up. If you're gonna have big plans for him, then make him have a big debut.
Right. They ruined his momentum. I will not forgive them for that. And this is just another one of Vince McMahon's petty situations and the McMahon family trying to assert their dominance against people who they have no business punishing. That's just how
And
I
then,
see it. Go ahead.
last night, still, Cross showed up by himself. I don't personally remember seeing Scarlett in the passenger seat
No, I
when
didn't.
Cross left.
The angles weren't really conducive to see anybody. But
Yeah.
usually in show business, when someone is there that's meant to be there, they show them. You don't just put somebody in the passenger seat of a car for a scene that you're not going to put them in. So I didn't see Scarlett there. So I don't know what's going on backstage with that. If this situation led to them taking Scarlett off of TV because they see her as a liability to Cross, then that's unfair as well. Because if they're going to take Scarlett off of TV, it's because they see her as a liability. Because that segment, a lot of Cross's anger came from that segment, from Cole throwing that water bottle. That's what I'm assuming, because it looked like it hit her.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like he had legitimate anger. Like, go watch it back. I may sound crazy, but go watch it back, and you can definitely see it. So, if they're going to keep Scarlett off of TV, then what is she going to do? Because she cannot wrestle. Go watch her in any other promotion. She cannot wrestle. Now, I'm all for one trying to learn and improve at wrestling. I've seen it happen before. But from what I've seen for her days in Impact, she cannot wrestle. So, gotta help them both. Whatever they have planned for them in the future, I hope it works out. But this just seems like another petty situation in my eyes. And I don't know. It's honestly just unfair to me. But one last element on this situation. A lot of NXT talent takes shots at Cross when they cut their promos. So I can see why Cross is mad. So I don't know. It's all one big petty situation brought to you by the Vince McMahon bloodline, and honestly, I'm not here for it. But we now move on to the NXT review portion of this. So NXT kicked off with Samoa Joe storming down to the ring, and he was mad, of course, and he wanted to, call him out and have a confrontation with him, but William Regal came down to the ring, and he stopped him. He said, "This is not what I planned when I brought you in." Samoa Joe said that Kross provoked him. Regal said that he did it within the capacity of the match because Samoa Joe is a referee. Joe said the match was over, which is correct. If we're thinking logically here, the match was over. So, after that, he's done being a referee. And Samoa Joe, after being told that Kross wasn't there yet, he said he'll wait till the end of the show to get his, revenge on Kross. So, Brandon, this was a great open to the show. This is what they needed. Something like this. But when I was watching it, I didn't really care. Because I do not take Kross seriously after what happened on Monday. And I know you've told me you feel the same way. When you took a look at this segment for the first time, when you watched it live, it felt different, did it not?
It did feel very different.
Right. So, we go back to last week on NXT when they had the match with Kross and Gargano with Samoa Joe as the special guest ref. I was not able to watch that live, but I went back and watched it. And the ending was a perfect way to start a month-long great feud of Samoa Joe and Kross. It's a great way to introduce this feud and, kind of give that big money match, because this feels like big money.
Mm-hmm.
And Raw just completely ruined the feel for it. So now you go from a big main event to a match that I don't care as much about as I should. And it really pisses me off. The power of the main roster being able to make me not care about something is astonishing. But I have a question for you. When you look at the way this is being built, you can honestly tell that the storyline's going to be good. Is there any way that NXT's booking can salvage this situation and try to make us care about Karrion Kross again?
I feel like if anything, what's happened this week is going to make NXT want to change plans of what they had and just make it even better than what was already scheduled.
Right. Hold on. So you're a believer.
So
you're a believer that the burial of NXT is actually going to make them stronger?
because a lot of people. I saw a lot of people say I can't take NXT serious anymore. So I feel like with NXT, getting all this, the backlash that what happened Monday, I believe personally that it's what wanted to push them to make the show better, to make this certain rivalry better than what it is, and in the end, if people still don't take Cross serious, then that's just what it is. But at least, NXT's trying, to make him seem like a bigger star than what he is. But if he goes back to Raw next week and they do the same thing over again, then it's just pointless. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Right, I 100% agree. I feel like the theme of this review is going to be how bad the main roster is, and specifically Raw. But
yeah, man,
you got to look at it in NXT's perspective. And we kind of talked about this in the open with Kross, but NXT really has to change Vince McMahon's mind. And I know that's easier said than done. It's probably not going to happen, but if you're Triple H, if you're Shawn Michaels, or anybody backstage, any of the producers, you have to look at this like you have to use it as a beacon of change. You have to try to change things.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, Vince McMahon doesn't care about NXT. So when I look at this storyline from the inside out, if I'm Triple H, I use this as a way to change Vince's mind. Build Kross as a monster. Try to get that interest back in Kross without taking everything away from Joe. Because, Joe's probably going to beat Kross. You have to build him up. But I take this time to make Kross look like even more of a monster. This is just a very sad situation, and Triple H has to be the one to step up and say, no, we have to handle this our way, not you, Vince. So that's just how I feel about it. It was a good opening to the show. I don't want to say it got me excited for the end of the show, but it did get me intrigued to see how they were going to handle it.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice, though, last thing on this part, Joe, when he was talking about how out of control Kross is, he only mentioned Kross's match on Raw once. Why do you think they didn't really follow up? And that sounds like an obvious answer, but in your opinion, why do you think they didn't follow up?
So, I think it's because, one, I think NXT wants to keep their name attached as much as possible when it comes to them in the main roster. Now, even though the end goal per se is for NXT Star to make it on the main roster. Yeah. But I feel like they were gonna have to mention it in some type of way. But I think they did it in a good way. Mention what happened and then just leave it.
Right.
Because if you focus on it, it was a bad debut, and yeah, it you just can't. Showing it again just would have made Cross look even more like stupid.
Right. In my opinion, it's embarrassment from them. The reports come out that they're embarrassed about it. They're mad about it. So, the obvious thing to do would be not mention it. Try to get people to forget about it, which we're not. We're not going to forget about it. But try to detach yourself, like Brandon said, from that. So the more you mention it, the worse he looks. The less you mention it, I mean, he still looks bad, but the less damage is done, I'd say.
Facts. Yeah.
But I don't know, man. There's just something about this that I don't really like. Triple H is going to have to do something to get me to care about it. I don't know what that is. But all I can say is last night really wasn't it to make me care. But moving on, we had a tag team match. So the opening match of the show, it was Bobby Fish and Kushida taking on Roderick Strong and Tyler Rust of the Diamond Mine.
Oh, God.
Or Diamond Mine, I should say, not Mind. Yeah. This was a good match. I enjoyed the wrestling. I enjoyed the technicality of this match. Kushida's great. I love Kushida. He dominated really in that match. But the part that I didn't like, I really despised the fact that the Diamond Mine lost.
Oh my gosh.
They looked
bro.
bad. Because, okay, you have the Diamond Mine debut by, attacking Kushida looking strong, right? They cheat to win their first match, and then they lose their second. So what exactly are you trying to do with them? Why are you having one of your big new attractions on NXT with a guy that you're investing time and a lot of effort into and have them lose via submission on TV? Here's what should have happened, in my eyes. Roderick Strong should have pinned Bobby Fish. And I say this because Bobby and Roderick obviously used to work together in the Undisputed Era. You can build a side story out of that by having Roderick pin Bobby. That way Kushida doesn't have to take the loss, or the pin, or the submission, whatever. And you can get Diamond Mine a win and make them look strong. You're hurting more than you're helping by having them lose. Brandon, how'd you feel about this?
Yeah, it was very dumb to have Diamond Mine lose. With the report saying, how over they're supposed to be, including Roderick Strong, saying how this is really supposed to focus on Roderick Strong and, make him a really big star in NXT. I don't get the point of having them lose. It was a very main roster-esque decision.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all. It almost kind of reminded me of, Retributions when they first came up on the main roster and they were running Havoc and everybody was excited, and then they jobbed out to whatever one of their first matches were. They were a joke after that. I don't think Diamond Mine per se is going to be a joke after this, but I just think it was really bad to book it like this.
Yeah, I did get a lot of main roster vibes from this decision. They're going to have to get the ball rolling with this Diamond Mine thing because I was excited when it debuted. I know you were too, but that flair that they had when they came up, that swag about them has quickly gone away, and it's because of the way they've been booked. When you debut something like this on TV, like a new faction, you gotta make them look strong. You can't be having them lose matches early. Like you said, Retribution. I mean, they sucked from the get-go. Absolutely, they did. But come on. You have a chance with something good here, and you're having them lose on TV by submission. It just doesn't make sense to me. I got a lot of main roster vibes from this decision, and, I honestly hope that Roderick Strong and Tyler Rust have something for them in the near future, because if not, this is quickly going to get old, and I'm not really going to care about it. Do you feel the same way?
Yes.
Definitely. It was a good tag match, though. What did you think of the wrestling in the match?
Oh yeah, the dynamic between Kushida and and Bobby Fish. I think it's said Kushida carried most of their side of the wrestling, but both of it was a great wrestling match. Yeah, you can get good wrestling from a lot of these guys. Tyler Rust included. I think he had a nice showing. Kushida's Kushida, Roderick Strong's Roderick Strong, Bobby Fish is Bobby Fish.
Right, a fun tag match to open the show. I just can't stand the decision. But I hope they get booked better to look stronger. Next. Am I missing something? No. Okay. Frankie Monet made her ring entrance. She invited Jessie Kamea without Aaliyah, so unfortunately Aaliyah's on her way to the main roster. I hope a few training sessions come with that, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't see her right away. So maybe that means they're trying something, but I don't know.
No, I think it's just best to keep Aaliyah off of TV, but that's another story for a different day. Jessie Kamea came with Frankie to ringside. Robert Stone was there as well. Frankie faced a woman named JC Jane. Typical squash match. But the big part of this, it was not the wrestling. It was a good squash. It made Frankie look strong. But Mandy Rose was sitting on the commentary table watching this. So, Brandon, we saw her last week basically return to NXT. Now, I don't know what they have planned for her. I hope it's something better than what they had on the main roster. But, Brandon, what do you make of this whole situation with Mandy Rose watching Frankie Monet? Do you think it's going to be a partnership or more of a rivalry?
I have no idea. This is the second week that Mandy has made her appearance and just looking at a certain women's match. Last week it was the oh crap it was
Sarray and Gigi Dolan, I think it was.
Yeah, right. So I think she's just keeping an eye out. I don't know what they have planned for her, but this is what I've been saying. If I really hope they keep these little main roster NXT trades up, because if they do, I will start a petition for Cesaro to come to NXT.
Right.
Because his push is obviously over on the main roster.
Yeah, they don't have anything for him.
If not Cesaro, Ricochet. It'd be nice to see a whole variety of stars on the main roster go back to NXT and then have some NXT stars come up. Because a lot of these NXT stars, if you ask me, I personally think Frankie Monet is ready for the main roster.
Yeah.
I just think the same thing about LA Knight.
Yeah, they're ready-made. Mandy is someone that I think was also... She could have been good on the main roster. So, I think that they're working with something here with Mandy and Frankie. I can't say that it's... Go ahead.
Yeah, I found it kind of weird how they didn't follow up with anything on Mandy Rose after SummerSlam last year. Because I think her and Sonya had a great match last year at SummerSlam.
Yeah, it was more than I expected. Sonya's great.
Yeah.
Mandy could be great.
Mandy's okay. She's all right.
Yeah.
She's good.
There's nothing special about her, but hopefully we can get to see more of her actual, good performances here in NXT. Yeah. But there's nothing too exciting involving this situation with Mandy Rose. It's kind of boring, I guess you could say, because we're just waiting for her to do something. I don't like waiting for somebody to do something unless I have vested interest in that. I don't have vested interest in this.
Last night should have been Mandy Rose coming out and or showing her some type of interview, or coming out and cutting a promo and saying why she's back.
Yeah.
There's not really to prolong. It's not like she's a huge star from the main roster.
She's not she's not anything special right now. So I agree with you. They should have followed up. But it's whatever. Frankie won in a few minutes. Nothing too special there. Up next, we had Kyle O'Reilly against Austin Theory. I really like Austin Theory. I think he's
I
great.
love Austin Theory.
This match really showcased Kyle O'Reilly's aggressive side to him. It
Cool
was a really
Kyle.
good match. Unique offense. Theory really showed out. What are your thoughts on these two guys, and how do you think they will play into the coming weeks? Because we know they have stuff planned for them. We saw that tonight with Austin Theory leaving the way, presumably. So we'll talk about that later. But what are your thoughts on these two guys?
When you talk about next 5 NXT champions, Kyle O'Reilly is definitely in that list. Kyle O'Reilly, ever since he's splitting up from the Undisputed Era, ever since they've stopped being a thing, he's been. I personally think he's been good. It's been nice. I feel like him and Cole are obviously gonna have one more match. Because it's a basic wrestling rivalry. You need
The rubber
3.
match.
Yeah. So I don't know when it's gonna be. I would assume maybe Takeover coming up.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. I would want to say so. With Cole apparently having his match with Reed next week, which I personally think, I hope not, but it might be Reed's last match in NXT. But
Yeah.
it really depends on who wins. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, I think Kyle O'Reilly, is a great star. He's definitely, I think he's a great baby face. His theme is a very nice baby face theme. It could be
Right.
better, but I'm not complaining. Austin Theory. There's been a tremendous amount of growth from Austin Theory from last year. I think, I don't know if a lot of people have forgotten, but he was on Raw for a little bit. He was Ron's disciple.
Right.
So I think from ever since then, from when he left the main roster, came back to NXT, he's had a tremendous amount of growth, and I think Johnny has been helping him on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I
Promo work,
definitely see some
character work,
Johnny
because
in him.
when Austin Theory first came, he was very serious, and now I kind of get of a from Austin and Gargano, I kind of get of a DIY vibe, but more goofy than the original DIY was.
Yeah, and another thing on Austin and Johnny Gargano, I see a little bit of DX in them.
Oh yeah,
So I see that Triple H, Shawn Michaels influence. But that Kyle O'Reilly and Austin Theory are two fantastic competitors. They put on a good match. Kyle won with the heel hook. He made Austin Theory tap out. Just a good win for Kyle. Kind of helping him rack up the wins and feel important. But I definitely think they have something with Austin Theory. I don't know which way they go with him, but I definitely think they have something in him. Just the way he looks on TV and the way he, performs. He always performs. So, Kyle O'Reilly gets the win with the heel hook. And yeah, just a pretty good match to showcase both competitors. And Austin Theory suffering a loss led into something later in the show, which we'll get to in a little bit. But up next, we had Mariachi Madness with Legado del Fantasma. Santos Escobar did not do anything with Mariachi, which I was happy because my ears were about to hurt. And he cut a pretty good promo on Swerve and Hit Row. Hit Row came out. They spit some facts to Legado. Top Dollar wrapped Santos and the rest of Legado del Fantasma were attacked by Hit Row. Santos was about to hit Swerve with a guitar, but B-Fab took the guitar from him, and it led to Swerve hitting Joaquin Wilde with the guitar.
Yeah.
So, you know, this segment really showcased how good Santos Escobar is on the mic. I know I'm a big fan of Santos Escobar, but what do you think of what he does week in and week out, whether it's in the ring, on the mic, or, just in an interview backstage?
Santos Escobar is great. I thought he was a really good cruiserweight champion, and I'm gonna say this again, say this about Kyle O'Reilly. When you talk about next 5 NXT champions, Santos Escobar definitely hits the list on that, in my opinion.
Definitely. I really like what he does with Legato. And the same with Hit Row. Swerve winning the title was a bit of a shock to me. I didn't really like the decision. But I feel like when they do Swerve versus Escobar, one-on-one, I feel like that's going to be a classic match that a lot of people talk about for a very, very long time. But Brandon, we've seen Hit Row kind of rise in the past few weeks and past month. I really, really think they have something with them. If they can improve in the ring, aside from Swerve, if Top Dollar can turn into that classic big man, I think they have something with Hit Row as a group. What were your initial thoughts on Hit Row, and where do you think they go? What do you think their
From the
ceiling is in
moment,
NXT?
yeah, from the moment I saw them, I was like, oh, I was like, this is different.
Yeah,
We
they
haven't really
definitely
seen
have a
any.
vibe to them.
We've seen, we've seen groups like this. The way I explained it to Will the first time I saw them, I was like, this gives me a urban sanity vibe of a group. But with their own twist.
Right.
So I feel like Hit Row is gonna be what Sanity is gonna be everything Sanity was supposed to be. With having, Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane as the NXT Tag Team Champions, Eric Young, main champ, and Nikki Cross, NXT Women's Champ. I feel like they're gonna go this route with Hit Row.
Right. And we're yet to see what B-Fab can do in the ring. She's pretty good on the mic.
Yeah.
Top Dollar needs to improve in the ring. Ashante the Adonis is good, and Swerve is great. So
Yeah.
I definitely see
So
something big in them. Go ahead.
yeah, and I saw a lot of people saying, they don't know how to feel about this because it's like a heel versus heel thing. My thing is when it's a group like Hit Row, who's so over with the fans, they're gonna give babyface energy in the rivalry, even though they're not. And I feel like NXT is really good with doing these type of versus heel, um, heel versus heel rivalries.
Right.
And in the past couple ones they've done, Santos has been a part of them. They did it with him and Devlin. They did it with him and Cross, and they're doing it with him and Swerve.
Right.
So I feel like it's going to be great.
Definitely. But this segment was pretty good. I didn't catch all of it. I missed part of it. But from what I saw, this looked like we're leading up to a 6-man tag team match, which I don't know how I feel about. I feel like that's going to lead into I'm an idiot. Escobar versus Swerve at Takeover 36, which has been announced, by the way. I think I missed that in my notes. But Takeover 36 has been announced for August 22nd, the night after SummerSlam.
And reports say it's going to still be at the Capital Wrestling
Right.
Center, not
Which,
Arena.
like Brandon said, it's probably going to be at the Capital Wrestling Center, which I don't like. So while we're on the topic of the Capital Wrestling Center, Brandon, why don't you think they're moving out yet? Why do you think they're sticking around?
I don't know. It's really. I want to assume maybe it has something to do with Full Sail. Maybe Full Sail is not ready for them back yet.
Right.
I feel like it's just something about this crowd. They're not as loud as Full Sail, and people can say, "Oh yeah, they have masks on," but still, it's just they don't get as excited.
Yeah, I
as
can
a
get
Full
as
Sail
excited
crowd
as I want
was.
to with a mask on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like you have to wear masks. In the regular W universe, there's from this past weekend, I think I saw about 3 people with the mask and that's from all 3 shows:
Yeah, there were
SmackDown,
very few
Money in the
people.
Bank, and Raw.
I
Yeah,
saw a bit, but the non-maskers outweigh the maskers, and I'm all for health and safety. I'm all for kicking this virus out of the door. But if you're NXT, you have to try to make it feel like a regular show because NXT just doesn't have that vibe. Full Sail was a great vibe for NXT. The glass they got to take down, and I don't really care as much about the mask thing because it's not a big deal. But
Mm-mm.
I don't know what the restrictions they have entail, but I think they gotta loosen up a bit to kind of make it feel more like a wrestling show and not like a planted crowd, because it doesn't feel like a
Mm-hmm.
real crowd. It feels like guys they just stuck out there, like kind of like when they first started in the CWC. Well, which used to be the Performance Center. But I'm looking forward to Takeover. At the end of the show, we'll kind of go over what we think is going to happen to Takeover. But moving on, we had a match in the first round of the NXT Breakout Tournament. It was Odyssey Jones, who I'm a big fan of,
I love
against
Odyssey
Adrian Chase. It was a quick match, nothing too special. Odyssey kind of reminded me of Mark Henry.
a lot.
With added athleticism, so kind of like a mix between Keith Lee and Mark Henry. When you look at Odyssey Jones, Brandon, what do you see in him? And obviously Mark Henry, but what other big men in WWE history or wrestling history at that? Who does he remind you of besides Mark Henry?
Um, yeah, a lot of names come to mind. You could say he gives off Big Show vibes. Um, I think the main one that sticks out though is really just Mark Henry.
Right.
I think it's safe to say Bam Bam Bigelow. I feel
Yeah.
like he kind of has like almost kind of like the same kind of shape, but the athleticism, it's just very very different, and the
Right.
style is like it's just different from Mark Henry and Bam Bam Bigelow and Big Show, and it's kind of like a Keith Lee kind of thing. So when NXT brings up these guys, it's very cool to see, and it's nice to see how they work with the little guys and the other stars in NXT. And I feel like Odyssey Jones, along with Duke, those are my main two
Duke
that I
Hudson.
think that I think would win the breakout tournament, and then Carmelo Hayes, you could say, but
Right.
yeah, those three I think are my predictions for the breakout tournament.
And we'll get into specific things about the breakout tournament in a minute. But off your point, Odyssey Jones kind of reminds me of obviously Mark Henry. I do get Bam Bam Bigelow vibes from him, but he really is like another Keith Lee. And down the road, I could see them marketing him and building him like a Keith Lee because they have similarities, I will say. But
Oh yeah.
Odyssey won in a quick match against Adrian Chase. Yes, Adrian Chase. Um, Adrian, I don't know why I keep calling him Andre. Adrian Chase looked really weak. I don't know what they were trying to do here, but they made Odyssey look really strong. But they could have let Adrian get a little bit of offense in. But
He looked like he
nonetheless,
looked, he looked like a jobber to me,
yeah, he looked like a jobber more than a guy that they're trying to put in the breakout tournament.
for sure.
But he didn't look like a guy that could break out. Odyssey did. But he advances to the second round of the tournament. He is definitely a guy I see as a future piece in NXT in the main event scene. Like I said, he kind of reminds me of Keith Lee. But Brandon, you said your 3 picks for the breakout tournament are Carmelo Hayes,
Odyssey,
Duke
yeah,
Hudson, and Odyssey Jones. If you had to pick
yeah.
one of them, who would you say would be the right choice for the breakout tournament?
I'd say, you know what? That's it. I'm gonna go with Duke Hudson because for the other two guys, I feel like they don't really need the breakout tournament to break out in the NXT.
Right.
Um, Carmelo Hayes definitely doesn't because that showing he had with Adam Cole, he was really already set as a future main part of NXT. And Odyssey Jones, you know, there's not a lot of stars like Odyssey Jones.
Right.
So, and I feel like with Duke Ellington, there's like a whole bunch. I don't want to say he's basic, but he's definitely something we've seen before. So I feel like he kind of needs it more than the other two guys. You know what I mean?
Right. And Duke Hudson was Brendan Vink. He went by another name, but he never got to be on TV with it. But I feel like Odyssey has a future. Carmelo definitely has a future. They put him in the ring with Adam Cole. And it really looks like Duke Hudson may be the odd one out here. So I feel like the right decision would be for Duke Hudson to win. I do agree. And just build Odyssey and Carmelo in ways that you would build somebody just coming in NXT. So definitely interesting. I'm very interested in the breakout tournament. There's a lot to like. There's a lot of new stars that I have my eye on. Maybe if WWE doesn't work out, they go somewhere else and become a star. But this was definitely a good showing for Odyssey. But I just wish they made Adrian Chase look a little bit more of a guy that I want to see because I don't really have any vested interest in him. So,
No, not at all.
Up next, we had something I didn't really like. It was a $1 million non-title match, I guess you could call it, when LA Knight and Drake Maverick squared off. It made Knight look really bad. I'm going to be honest. It made him look terrible. He lost on a roll-up in a very, very quick match. Maverick didn't need that. How do you feel about this, Brandon? Because I'm gonna collect my words to describe this.
You know, I think to get to the ending to get to the ending that they did. You necessarily didn't need the roll up. I guess the ending, the way they ended it off with LA Knight really attacking Maverick and getting Grimes to punch Maverick in the face. I guess the roll up did kind of make sense, per se, since LA Knight was frustrated and that he shouldn't have been, but he easily could have just won, made
Right.
himself look good, and then attacked Maverick after. But who would have thought Cameron Grimes would be so over as a face?
Right.
Last year, he was one of like the biggest heels in NXT, and a lot of people thought he was annoying. People still think he was annoying. I personally, ever since I saw him, I always thought he was great. I always thought he was a cool guy. I like his gimmick, the cowboy gimmick, and now, the money thing with him being the butler, people, having, sympathy and empathy for him, I think it's great. And I think obviously we're about to get the third match between LA Knight and Cameron Grimes at Takeover for the $1 million championship. And Grimes is gonna win, and I personally think you know what? Yeah, it's hard, bro, because when you see somebody like LA Knight in NXT, you want him to be the NXT champion, but he's so ready for the main roster that I wouldn't be surprised if he was a part of the draft coming up in October.
Right. Well, I'll say this. I've collected my thoughts, and I know what I'm going to say. This didn't need to happen. They could have, like you said, they could have just had Knight's victory happen, and then he could have attacked Drake Maverick. If what you wanted to happen here was to try to get more sympathy for Cameron Grimes, just do that. Have LA Knight be high off of his win. Have him beat down Maverick, and then do what they did. They had Grimes tell Maverick to leave because he just won and Knight would be mad. and then LA Knight beat down Drake, and Grimes tries to separate them, and then Knight, tries to manipulate Grimes into punching Drake Maverick in the face, which he eventually did. Which I like that part. I did like that part. I didn't like the decision of the match, but I did like the way they had LA Knight kind of manipulate Cameron Grimes. That was quite clever. It builds more sympathy for Cameron Grimes, and it kind of it makes you feel for the dude because he didn't want to do that. And Drake Maverick's such a likable guy that you don't want to see that happen. But the match decision I didn't like. The segment I did after the match. And Brandon, I want to get your thoughts on the segment after the match. What did you think of Grimes reluctantly punching Drake Maverick?
Yeah, it really builds on the story of how LA Knight really has control over Grimes, and how it just builds up more to when Grimes is just gonna per se turn on LA Knight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely builds a fire inside of Grimes. It makes him look weak, but for the better. It'll be a big payoff in the end. But bad squash, good segment, and then we get to our main event. Raquel Gonzalez defending her NXT Women's Championship against Xia Li. Before we get into the match, Brandon, what do you think of Xia Li's gimmick? And what do you make of the way they've been building her up?
So I think Xia Li per se in the ring has always been great.
Right.
Always been great. When she first came though, she was so boring.
Yeah, she didn't
The
have
gimmick.
a gimmick.
Basic Chinese, yada yada yada, whatever, and she just needed something. And I'm so glad that they gave her this new persona and this new badass, this new badass woman who isn't anybody to be played with. It's just very. She almost her and Boa and the mysterious
Mei Ying.
woman that sits, yeah, Mei Ying, that sits on the on the throne. It's very what's the word I'm looking for?
Menacing?
Like a movie.
Oh, yes. It's very cinematic. I agree there. When Xia came, she was boring. We didn't really have any interest in her gimmick. So it's honestly good that she has one, but the only problem I see is that her ceiling is NXT. Do you think Vince is going to invest into this gimmick once she comes up to the main roster? I don't. I don't think he is. So it's good that she's getting these big spots in NXT, but they got to prepare her for the main roster when the time eventually comes, if that time ever comes. But I like the gimmick. Raquel Gonzalez is somebody that I was high on. I felt she was the right one to beat Io. They've been building her. The build for her as champion has been all right. I haven't been too excited about it, too down on it. Overall, it's been all right. I guess you could say. But she's had some good matches, some boring matches, but this one I was looking forward to because Xia Li is very talented in the ring, and I feel like when you're in the ring with someone as talented as Xia Li, Raquel Gonzalez is going to benefit from it. The only problem I had really during this match was the fact that Xia Li kind of dominated the match but she botched a lot. Like, she tried to do all these moves on Raquel, but she botched. So, if you're going to have somebody dominate, you got to make sure that they're going to be able to do their moves, you know? But this was a very interesting match. It appears we're having some technical difficulties with our audio, so I'm not sure what's going on. This is the second day in a row this has happened. But I'm going to try to get around this and just continue speaking about the match as I air these issues out. But in this match towards the end, it looked like Xia got hurt. Raquel landed on her, and the way it appeared, it looked like she cracked some of her ribs, like, you know, the area that she landed on, and the way she did it. It seemed like the way that it happened, she would have cracked some ribs. But Raquel won in an alright match. She won with the one-armed powerbomb. So, I like the finisher from Raquel. I think it's a good finisher for her to use. It shows off her power. And I feel as if Raquel is going places and she's going to improve. Brandon, if you can hear me, do you feel the same way? It appears the audio issues are still happening. So let me fix this. Brandon, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. So basically what I was just talking about was how I feel like when Xia Li is in the ring with someone like Raquel will improve from it. But at the same time, when you try to have Xia dominate the match, you got to make sure she's not going to botch her moves, and that's the way it looked. Did you feel that way, or did you feel like Xia did a good job of being the heel in this match?
Yeah, I think Xia did pretty good, you know, and I feel like when you have a type of heel like Xia against I guess you could say a tweener like Raquel.
Yeah, I see her as a tweener right now.
Yeah, as a tweener like Raquel, you know, Raquel, the size difference, you could almost kind of say Xia can't really be taken serious, but I mean, I took her serious because, you know, Xia, she's really great in the ring, and she's really good with her style in this character. Now, you could definitely tell by the way it ended that it wasn't supposed to end that way.
Right. And I also talked about the part of the match where it looked like Xia got injured when Raquel landed on her.
Yeah,
It looked like she cracked some ribs.
for sure.
What do you think happened there, and what do you think about the finish of the match overall?
I'm glad. I mean, luckily it played right into the ending segment, which was
Right.
great, and that the incident didn't happen any earlier, because then I don't know what they would have done. But you know, I think they played out really good. I think it's just going to be hard to take Xia as much of a badass heel as she did when she was really just destroyed at the end.
Right. And I like the way they're building her, but they got to prep her for the main roster because her ceiling is not high.
No.
But Raquel won with the one-armed powerbomb, like I said before. Decent match. Nothing too special. Raquel retains. What do you think is next for Raquel going into Takeover?
I love how she said after Xylee, there's nobody left, and that really for me just planting seeds for Raquel versus Dakota.
Yeah, I felt the
That's
same
how I
way.
look at it. Yeah.
I felt the same way. With her, I feel like they're subtly teasing it.
Yeah, they are.
They're teasing it, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the big moment. The big moment isn't there yet. Uh,
I think the turn is gonna be reminiscent of Bailey when she turned on Sasha. I think Raquel's gonna be the one to turn on Dakota.
right. I do feel
Uh,
that.
Cause since Dakota is just smaller and like she's just more of a baby. She just has more of a baby face look. I feel like Dakota's the one to
Right.
go with the one to get turned on.
Definitely. So that was the main event. Then, in what I thought personally was one of the best parts of the show, if not the best, Samoa Joe came out to the ring as Dakota and Raquel went to the back, and he was mad that he didn't find Kross yet. Samoa Joe would warn Kross, and then Kross showed up on the Tron, cut a good promo, but yet I still can't find a way to care about him. And he pointed the camera down to an injured William Regal. So it appeared that Kross had kidnapped Mr. Regal and is using him as a way to get to Samoa Joe. I like this, but at the same time, I don't care. Do you feel the same way, Brandon?
Yeah, it was a very good ending. I always love when they have the heel, attack like somebody in power or somebody who can't defend themselves. It just makes them seem even more like a prick.
Yeah.
But with Cross, it's just like it's just hard to just get with it after Monday. What happened Monday?
Yeah, that was a big blow. But then Joe tried to run out back and catch Kross, but Kross had already drove off. So
And
that was the end.
I
Go ahead.
I love that camera. I love that camera angle that they did when Cross set it down.
Yep,
And
I like
while
that.
he got in the car and Joe just ran out, you could just see Regal out on the ground.
Yeah, NXT does really good with the production of these types of segments.
Yeah, they have amazing camera angles.
Yeah, it's just a different feel from the main roster when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
But overall, Brandon, what is your final overall thought from this episode of NXT?
So yeah, it definitely from the other shows we've gotten over the last few weeks, this was definitely I feel like the one with like the least excitement.
Right.
But whether there is an excitement to it or not, NXT still manages to put on they really never put on a bad show.
No.
They always manage to put on a good, or decent show. So I mean, NXT, with Takeover coming up, I feel like the shows are definitely gonna have much more hype to it. This Takeover gonna have a big hype to it. Hopefully the plans aren't to stay in Capital Wrestling Center and they go to wherever arena is in Las Vegas. I
The
don't know why the
T-Mobile
name's
Arena
freaking.
would be the place that they would
Yeah,
go to.
T-Mobile. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I hope they go there.
I agree.
If not, if they stay in the Capital Wrestling Center and whatever, But the matches, I'm pretty sure are gonna be fire. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. My overall thought would just be they did not deliver last night. It was a bland episode. Usually there's something that always sticks out. Usually it'd be Joe and Cross's thing, but I don't really care anymore. So that was kind of bland, I guess you could say. The matches were not very good. The opening match was fine. Kross and Kyle, or why do I keep saying Kross? Theory and Kyle was probably the best match of the night. So this match or this show just did not deliver. I hope they bounce back, though. They need to bounce back heading into Takeover, or we're going to be up for a rough Takeover. But it is what it is. NXT has to do a better job of making me care about Kross again, because I really don't care about him at this point in time. But now, before we head out, now that the review portion of this show is done, we're going to do our TakeOver 36 predictions, starting with the NXT Championship match. So obviously, it's being built Joe versus Kross. Brandon, do you feel that there's going to be anything different but this match? And what are you looking forward to most about it?
It's gonna be a very hard hitting match. I feel like it's gonna be a very, trying to put each other to sleep thing. That's the whole type of thing. Joe, a new merch, by the way. I like it. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be it's gonna end in somebody passing out to do the rivalry justice. It's gonna be a great match. It's gonna be a very big mega money NXT match with Joe. Joe is like when you think of NXT, he's one of the people you think of.
Right.
One of the faces you think of. He's one of the most dominant NXT champions. Not the best, but he was definitely one of the most dominant, the best NXT champion ever, my opinion. Adam Cole, baby, doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what Joe does after it. I think that the person to take the title out of Joe is Pete Dunne. I don't think anybody else should do it, but Pete Dunne.
Right.
But for Takeover, it's gonna be Joe versus Kross, and it's gonna be a good match. And yeah,
Definitely. In my eyes, I think to try to make the rivalry better, to keep us guessing, I think it should be a submission match. Definitely. You can add intrigue to it because these are two guys you don't really see passing out a lot.
Or you know what? Maybe not even a submission match. Just fight till somebody is knocked out cold.
Yeah, like a go to sleep match or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
NXT is pretty creative. I'm sure they can come up with something that makes me intrigued, but I definitely see Joe coming out on top with all the moves to the main roster for Karrion Kross. Do you feel the same way about that?
Yeah.
I think the right choice would be for Joe to win. Moving on, we have the NXT Women's Championship match. Brandon, what do you think? Who do you think is going to be the one to challenge Raquel Gonzalez? Do you think they're going to pull the trigger on Dakota, or do you think it's just going to be someone else that they've been building up? And if so,
I don't.
Who do you think it'll be?
I don't know who else it would be besides
Right.
Dakota. I don't. Yeah, I don't know who else you'd give it to, bro. You could say Mandy Rose. Nobody cares about that.
Right.
I think Dakota Kai is the way to go.
Yeah, I think if you want big story, big money match for the NXT Women's title, it's got to be Dakota. But that's a match I'm kind of torn about on who should win it because I feel like Raquel hasn't even reached her peak yet. But at the same time, I'm a huge Dakota Kai fan. I want to see a title on her. So I'm kind of torn. I personally don't know who I think would win that. But how do you feel about what decision they go with in this one?
I think for the first, I feel like with Raquel and Dakota, they have multiple matches. I feel like Raquel would have to retain their first one. I personally think to just get her over as the heel and say that Dakota couldn't beat her, and then they would have some type of other match, you know. But yeah, I don't think Dakota for the first match. If that's all we get, I don't think Dakota wins. I think Raquel retains, and then they have a rematch somewhere. So,
yeah. I definitely see that happening. I think that's what they should do now that you mention it. But it's definitely a interesting prospect because I like both of them. I'd be fine with either winning, but I definitely think a trilogy type thing would be good. So you can have an interesting rivalry for the rest of, I don't want to say for the rest, but for a good portion of the fall. in NXT. Next, the NXT North American Championship rivalry. I think is going to be Santos and Swerve. I don't think there's any other way to go about it. That's another one I'm looking forward to because we know how good they are. I can obviously the 6-man tag team match between Hit Row and Legado del Fantasma coming up soon. Do you think they go in this direction for the NXT North American Championship, Brandon?
Yeah, I think this match is gonna be one of the best single title defenses of the North American title since. There's been a whole bunch. My top 2 favorite single North American title matches are Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic and Adam Cole and Ricochet. I think this is going to be right up there with those matches because both guys are former cruiserweight, both former cruiserweight stars, and now they've succeeded and they're just into the mid-card division, and I think it's going to be a great match.
Right. I feel the same way. And this is another feud I think you could run for a little bit. Have Swerve pull out a sneaky heel victory and have Santos get his revenge. Because you got to give Santos his strengths here. But I feel like Swerve definitely wins. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Before we get out, do you have any other predictions for matches for Takeover?
LA Knight, Cameron Grimes.
Yep.
Their final match.
With Cameron Grimes winning.
Yeah, Cameron Grimes winning. And then for the tag titles, it's iffy. I really don't know.
I think they do every team in the division. Or
yeah,
4 teams.
Great. Yeah. Not to mention, I really actually like that bit when Imperium interrupted MSK's backstage interview and they came back and we missed what MSK stands for.
Right.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. I forgot to cover that in my notes, but yeah, I really like that part. But Takeover will definitely be interesting. Okay. Drop your predictions in the comments to our viewers. Let us know what you think about Takeover. But with that being said, that is your NXT review today. We're going to get out of here. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to drop a like and subscription. Drop a comment on today's video. And make sure to go back on the Raw review from yesterday and drop a like and a comment as well. For Brandon.
And hit a sub, please. Hit a sub.
Give us our subs.
Over 50 views and our subscribers are still in the teens and likes are still in the single digits. It doesn't make any sense to me. Come on, guys.
The YouTube algorithm, man.
YouTube algorithm, bro.
For Brandon, I'm Will, signing off. We are the Fourth Wall Wrestling Podcast.
Reminder that Raw sucks.
Yeah.
Daily reminder. Can't forget that.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow for the AEW Dynamite review. It's Fyter Fest Night 2. Peace.
Peace, guys.